Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I know folks are still coming in, although the pace has slowed down a little bit. I've got a couple of updates, mostly coming out of last week's Council of Presidents meeting. And obviously we'll likely have some questions. And then I will turn it over to Provost Nwosu, and then we'll turn it over to Vice President Rotolo for their updates. Excuse me while I reach for my notes so I get this right. So last week we had a robust and first time, at least for me, face-to-face meeting with all of the presidents and our central administration colleagues. So that was actually quite interesting to be in an academic space, classroom at the Graduate Center with about 40 other people, most of whom I'd never seen in more than 2 dimensions. As the conversation pivoted to things around budget, because that's obviously on our heads right now as we contemplate the next legislative cycle, the Chancellor pointed out that there are emerging four talking points that I think are important for us across our campuses to reinforce and to discuss with particularly legislators, but also community people. That are also part of the subtext of the request that we're taking, CUNY is taking to Albany. I don't think these 4 would surprise anybody. The first of these is mental health, including how are we serving our students, particularly as we move through COVID. What are we doing face-to-face? What are we doing remotely? What sorts of challenges do we have in serving them in these different modalities? And what sorts of programs have we developed or are we developing to support our students, particularly as we contemplate them coming back in greater numbers to our campuses? Again, I don't think it surprises anybody that, like a lot of people, our students have felt greater and greater stresses and perhaps alienation and other kinds of issues that have impinged upon their state of well-being. And it sounded like from the briefing that mental health issues will be with us in a comprehensive way as a force to be reckoned with, certainly over the next several years. Similarly, the Chancellor asked us to think about the ways in which we're supporting students for disabilities and the ways that we're addressing their needs. And obviously, disabilities can come in many visible and invisible forms, and in some cases they're challenged by technology. In some cases, they're challenged by physical structures. And then in other cases, they're challenged by the social environment that they're learning in. And so again, the Chancellor asked us to contemplate the ways in which we're meeting their needs. And then what are our challenges and obstacles for them? And what sorts of resources might we need, not just this year, but moving forward as we serve this student population. The third of these, again, not a surprise, food insecurity. And I can underscore this. I've had dozens of meetings at this point with legislators, state and local legislators, and repeatedly they remember we have a food pantry. They are aware of the challenges in the Bronx. They ask us about how profound the food insecurity issues are, and they're interested in knowing what we're doing and ways in which they can partner with us. And they have partnered. I mean, the most recent one was Councilman Dinowitz back in end of September saying, we kind of missed out on a budget cycle, but I can still get you some money. And I believe he gave us $35,000 to support the food pantry. Similarly, we had some members of the foundation board on campus here a few weeks ago. And one of them was so touched, just on the spot, cut another check for $10,000. So clearly people are aware of the challenges and sensitive to these. I think for us, as we talk about it publicly, we have an immediate issue around food insecurity. And then of course we have a broader, slightly different, but of the same vein, focus on sustainability and sufficiency. And so it's trying to walk that line where we're addressing legislator concerns about the well-being of their constituents, but at the same time talking about issues of sustainability and sufficiency as an important educational component of what we do in and out of the classroom, but also one more tool in the battle against food insecurity. And so as we think about Lehman's engagement with these legislators. We're going to stay on point with food insecurity, but I am not going to lose the opportunity to talk about our broader initiatives around sufficiency and sustainability. And the fourth one is enrollment. And let's be candid, all of our campuses have been hit. Most of the nation has been hit. I thought I saw a study here in November that showed that the number of college-going students clearly had dropped over the last 2 years. For CUNY, the most challenging sectors for enrollment are the two-year schools. Some of the two-year schools are really struggling with enrollment. Others are doing okay, kind of holding their own, and there's a couple that seem to be growing. I mean, maybe modestly, but growing. But overall, our two-year institutions are really challenged, and that includes the two-year institutions in the Bronx. For us, we have a dip. We think it is related to COVID. Therefore, we hope once we get through COVID and get back to what we were in the fall of 19, we'll be able to cleave back some of that. But we're also in better shape than a lot of other schools. A number of schools did presentations last week. The combination of hearing their stories of enrollment decline and the size of their structural deficit was breathtaking to me, because I've been at institutions where we had those challenges, and it is really hard to dig out in productive and helpful ways. For us, the decline has not been so precipitous, and I'm personally thankful that I inherited a campus and a leadership team that has been acutely aware of these challenges and has stewarded our resources so well that we have enough resources, at least in the short term, to buffer these dips and to create the necessary stability and consistency that our students need, that our staff, that our programs need. And so we're in okay shape for now. Obviously, we would like to be meeting and exceeding our enrollment marks, and we'll have to start thinking about ways in which we can be more aggressive with different populations to get them here. I think one important positive note is that the interest among high school students in coming directly to Lehman seems to be increasing. I think that's great for us because we've been very dependent upon transfer students. As those enrollments dip, if we were solely or mostly dependent upon them and we did not have another avenue, we could be in trouble. But it may be a case, at least in the Bronx, that some of what's going on with our two-year college sister institutions is that as interest in them drops, those high school students are increasingly interested in us and they'll come to us directly. I don't want to trigger an enrollment battle with our friends. We'd rather collaborate with Hostos and BCC, to be sure, and hope all of our boats float higher. But if there's an opportunity for us to be that much more intentional and directive in terms of recruiting high school students, I think we have the capacity to do so. I mean, I think there's some things that we'll need to do in terms of onboarding those students and doing orientation for them, but I do think there's an opportunity there. And so I'm cautiously optimistic that the dips that we've experienced the last couple of semesters, we can quickly move out of once we get through COVID, or once we, as a society, yet again adjust to wherever we're at in COVID and do the unthinkable, which is to reset the new reality for ourselves. I think those were the high points for what the chancellor was directing us to think about in terms of the legislative cycle. The full budget is available if you go to the trustees website and go to the CUNY website. You can see, I believe it was in October, what the budget presentation was that the chancellor and his staff asked for support from the trustees. The other thing, obviously, that we spent some time talking about is the return to campus. So we've got the 70% target for face-to-face instruction, 30% being online or hybrid. I will let the provost in a couple of minutes here pick up that thread. The other piece is obviously our return to work. And so as we get into January and ahead of the first day of classes, we'd like to see our employees come back. For full-time employees who, for example, work a Monday through Friday schedule, every 2-week pay period would be 10 working days. And within those 10 working days, they would work 7 on campus, minimum 7 on campus. And we're directing supervisors and managers to work with their staff to balance out those workloads and how people come to campus. We'll also be working with the supervisors and managers if we need to make any kinds of alterations or accommodations in terms of what those workspaces are for safety reasons. And if there are some intractable issues that come up, we will take those as they come up and be thoughtful about how we put people into spaces. I'll remind everybody that so far the guidelines would suggest that if people are fully vaccinated, they can be co-located in spaces. Our students, if they're on campus, have been vaccinated with the very few exceptions of those who have exemptions or exceptions for medical or religious reasons, and that's a very, very small amount by the last count that I had. And so the only other population at this point that would be on campus regularly that might not be vaccinated or fully vaccinated would be our own faculty and staff. And so I'll go out on a limb here and I'll encourage anybody who's listening who hasn't been vaccinated and can get vaccinated. I'd encourage you to do so. It's in the best interest of our campus community. It would seem to be the best interest of you and the people around you. And we believe it will certainly promote a healthier and safer return to campus. We expect things to be a little bit bumpy the first couple of days. There might be people who haven't been in offices in a while. There are people here who've never left. There are people here who've come back full-time or most time over the last few months. But the reason why we're encouraging people to come back a little bit early as opposed to the first day of classes. First day of classes always invites a certain amount of chaos. We're going to have a lot of people back on campus that we haven't seen on campus in a long time. So maybe the chaos is a little bit more chaotic than what we're used to. As instruction goes, that tends to stretch IT a little bit. And then if people start to have problems with their computer configurations or updates and things like that, we don't want to be in the midst of trying to set up our workstations while we're simultaneously trying to serve students or our colleagues who require service. And frankly, we'd like to stress test ourselves as a campus. And there's still some things we need to sort out. As we heard in a meeting with, I think, a governance structure last week, there's still some things, and it's a kind of a chicken and egg thing with respect to provisioning food on campus. It is difficult to invite a food provider on campus when there's nobody here and have them ready to go for when people come, because it's a very risky business model for them to have. On the other hand, we don't know how well they're going to function until we have people on campus. And so rather than have a provider who showed up on campus on day one with, the vast majority of our employees, if we can move to that gradually over a week or two, that will give us an opportunity to see how things work. And to make alterations or amendments as necessary. There are clearly other things that we're doing around legislative meetings, working with a new mayor. I was on campus this past weekend. We had the inauguration of Councilman Dinowitz here. The Bronx delegation, legislative delegation, was out in full force. As was some of the state delegation. Even Chuck Schumer came to campus and spoke eloquently on behalf of Councilman Dinowitz. So there's a lot of those kinds of engagements, and as a campus, we continue to work with CCS, who's our outside consultant, helping us with the capital campaign. And I think we're getting much closer to where we need to be to actually formally and comprehensively go out there and do the necessary work on the philanthropic front. If I had to hazard a guess where we have all our ducks in a row, we're prepared to go out there, I would say March 1 would be a target. It may be more realistic to say we're actually doing it April 1, and this is the silent phase of the campaign. But I think we will have a comprehensive report from CCS probably by the end of January. We'll have a good draft by early to mid-January of what our priorities might be, how potential donors have reacted to them, what our total number is, whether or not those donors, and there's 60 to 80 that they've tried to interview, what they might think about the size and scope of our campaign. And once we get that feedback and can synthesize it, we'll sit down as a leadership team. We'll also consult with the foundation, and we'll set an internal number and a goal. We may even set an unpublished stretch goal to say that, you know, if we're in the last year, 18 months, and we've hit our goal, we don't stop, we continue on. We just sort of reset the goal a little bit farther, and we push a little bit farther. But those kinds of tactical and strategic decisions, I think we'll be making in probably mid to late January. That's all I have at this point. I am going to turn it over to Provost Nwosu. If you're ready.
Yes, thank you very much, President Delgado, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a very quick set of updates on a number of areas, in particular with regard to spring 2022 registration, which began yesterday. As everyone knows, we did delay this process to allow us the opportunity to ensure that the courses we were planning for spring semester, we had all of those in place, consistent with the 70 by 30 goal or target the central office had asked us to pursue. And I'll talk about that very shortly. But so far, in terms of that registration, and we did communicate, by the way, with our students, and I also sent a memo to the campus community so that folks are aware of where we were and why we are where we are. And as of yesterday, up until this afternoon, we have more than 8,000 enrollments thus far. And that, of course, also deals with 4,000 plus, 4,100, more than 4,100 unique students who have registered for classes in less than 48 hours. And what I'm told, of course, looking at the data, is that students are registering as aggressively as possible, 200 students per hour, much faster than we had anticipated. So this is wonderful, wonderful news. And we want to continue to encourage them to register as fast as possible. We have 95 course sections that have closed. That means that those particular sections, in terms of the class size, the students that have actually registered in those classes, they've maxed the number, and those sections are no longer accepting additional students. So that's also good news for us. And when I look at the data of those 95 sections, 52 of those are actually in person. That also speaks to our students' desire. And we'll try as best as possible to provide updates. I will do so with our deans and our department chairs through our deans as well, so that they see where we are making progress. I want to thank our enrollment management team, the department chairs and our deans in terms of the work thus far to get our students enrolled and registered in these classes. In terms of timeline, we have 38 more days between yesterday when registration began and the first day of classes, which is January 28, 2022. January 27th will be the last day for students to drop classes. And of course, when they do so within that particular timeline, they would have 100% of tuition refund. So that's important for our students to know. Late registration for spring begins January 28th. That's the first day of classes, and that will continue up through February 3rd. And of course, the last day of census is February 17th, 2022. The president did reference a modality report. Again, as of yesterday, when we began registration, we did schedule more than 2,500 courses. That's precisely 2,565 courses that were scheduled. And of those courses scheduled, 1776 of them in person. That's 68% of the courses we've planned for the semester actually in person. And then another 844 course sections, that's 32% online, and that includes our hybrid courses, of course, and that constitutes about 9% of the total online courses that we are offering for spring 2022. Again, I want to thank our deans, our chairs, directors of our general education programs, the registrar, the senior registrar herself and her team, the Senior Director of Enrollment Management, the Associate Provost for Academic Programs, the Vice President for Enrollment Management, our faculty members, everyone that's worked really very hard to get us to where we are. We now have what I call the most important task, working with our students to assist them with registration. And that work is what we have now to engage with over the next 38 days. Mr. President, I just want to share two more news to the campus community. As they will recall from the memo that I sent out, I think it was last week, we did have the approval of the two committees of the Board of Trustees with regard to our School of Business proposal. That proposal goes before the board on Monday next week for the final approval. And when that happens, then of course we'll begin the work, the planning work to launch the school 1st of July next year. So that's again, wonderful news for the college community in terms of our strategic direction. The other final academic affairs piece of information is one that happened 2 days ago with the FPMB. And then the cabinet yesterday as well with the approval of the resolution to restructure the Department of Health Sciences in the School of Health Sciences, Human Services, and Nursing. I met with the faculty in the school yesterday with the dean and shared this wonderful news with them. And they asked very good questions, and both the dean and I were able to respond to those questions. And certainly it was clear that the school is excited about this development and the opportunities it will provide to the college in terms of our strategic mission as well, in serving the community and in serving the region. So again, I want to congratulate the faculty in that department for this wonderful work. The resolution will then go forward. We're finalizing the formatting. It will go to the Office of Academic Affairs at the central office tomorrow. And then we plan to have that on the two committees of the Board of Trustees early part of next year. And then also have the approval with the full board as well as early part of next year. We're hoping that will go before the first meeting of the Board of Trustees in spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost. Vice President Rotolo, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Outstanding.
Thank you. Thanks, President Delgado. Thank you, Provost Nwosu. Good afternoon, Lehman College. How is everybody? It's great to be back with you all. I haven't been here for a while. Before I give you my update, I just want to tell you a little bit about my week this week. And it was unusual for a number of reasons, but as you all know, I like to walk around the campus a lot. I'll go into different buildings. I'll be all over the place. But this week, while walking on campus, I've experienced things that I haven't for quite some time. I passed students and notice it's with an S. They were plural. There were multiple of them together on College Walk. I passed a class being taught in Carmen Hall in a classroom. I saw students working together in the Harmony Cafe every single day this week. It's really been wonderful. I also saw colleagues that I haven't seen in person for some time too. And we've had the opportunity to talk. And I've had a tiny glimpse of our normal campus life, and it made me realize how much I have missed. Students bring life and vitality to the campus that just absolutely lifts my spirit and puts a bounce back in my step. It made me very happy this week. Interacting with my colleagues is motivating and invigorating. I didn't realize how much I was missing these interactions and their impacts on me personally. This week brought into perspective for me how depressing it has been being on campus without everyone else here. But I do want you to know that that's public safety, facilities, buildings and grounds, and environmental health and safety, have been preparing the campus for your return since last summer. And we continue to do so, and we will continue to do so. We have been and continue to be back on campus in full force. We have stockpiled PPE, cleaning and disinfecting supplies, have established schedules for cleaning, disinfecting, and preparing rooms and environments for occupancy. Mechanical systems have outside air dampers open to bring in maximum fresh air. MERV 13 filters are installed. We have and continue to implement and follow every recommendation of the CDC and ASHRAE. We continue to process orders for additional supplies, for additional portable HEPA filters for distribution to the campus. I also know that Gillette Hall is of concern, so I want to give you an update. It doesn't appear as if work is happening, but work has been going on for the last 2 months. The engineer visited the site, did an analysis of what's existing, what needs to be removed, and then specified the particular product that needs to be purchased to be located in to replace the building's natural ventilation system. He obtained a price quote from a vendor that's both supplies and installs the new fan and motor and drive, and is an electrical firm as well. All of that has been processed and purchase orders this week. And although I don't have a delivery date or an installation date yet, both the engineer who has specified the product and I will be following up regularly with the vendor to keep everything on track and on schedule. And once I do have dates, I will let everybody know. But we are very confident that it is going to be done before the start of the spring semester. Unfortunately, nothing has changed with the old gym, and facilities has been working with a lot of the units that are in the building to help them identify and locate alternative spaces for them to either provide student services in or conduct their daily business in. The other work in Gillette Hall, which is for the auditorium, CUNY has assigned that to the dormitory authority. We know that the exhaust, which is the ventilation system for that space, will be installed in place and installed prior to the start of the semester. Now, the exhaust or the ventilation system is similar to what will be installed in Gillette, which will generate the natural ventilation system. So what we'll have to do in the auditorium until the make a bear system is available and installed is to just open the windows slightly so the exhaust system will draw fresh air into the space. But in general, I feel very confident that we are ready. We're ready for everyone to come back. And I know we are looking forward to everyone returning. I also want to echo something that President Delgado said about giving us the opportunity to adjust to the increase in occupancy and the on-campus presence of many, many more people than have been here by coming in ahead and giving us the chance to get used to providing services to more people than we have been. So that's the end of my update, and I thank you, and I wanted to leave plenty of time for you to be able to ask questions.
Rene, I see one about is the gym open, and can people access the treadmills and other workout equipment?
Yes, it is. Now for students, it's open for anyone who has approved access in our access control system. That means your proper documents have been uploaded to CUNY first. For faculty and staff, I believe there is an enrollment that's required, that it's just not available to faculty and staff.
Thank you. And at present, I don't see anything else in the Q&A. Oh, hold on, maybe I need to update this. Let's see. Rene, do you know when the Student Life building will be open for clubs?
Sorry, I was muted. No, the Student Life building has been open. I
Okay.
just don't know when they're allowing clubs back. I'm not sure. I think that's a question for the Vice President of Student Affairs.
Okay.
But the building is open. It's been opened and it's been occupied by the staff and some students as well.
And we have some positive feedback from Leslie Grubler on the work that was done in front of the music building. I guess the question she's asking as we go into spring, because I don't know that anybody wants to be out there in winter, but as we go into spring, are we going to use that more comprehensively as a courtyard, maybe outdoor meeting space where people can safely congregate and be outdoors?
Yeah, it'll be nice to set up more tables out there also for people to be able to have meals out on the plaza area when the weather's nice, of course.
Yep. And then Peter, we have a question from Elin Waring. Do you know what the status is for our winter enrollment?
Yes, they're actually, of course, everyone knows we moved winter enrollment virtually. And as of yesterday, if I recall those numbers I looked at, I don't have them off the top of my head. So we're actually doing pretty well compared to where we were relatively the same time last year. So we are somewhere around less than 200 students, less than 210 students overall in terms of the number of students who have registered for winter classes. That's the last number I saw yesterday. But the numbers are trending well.
Good. Okay. And then Rene, I think this is something we've talked about. Are there any additional updates on how to enter the campus and with COVID protocols? I suspect we're not going to change much on the campus entrance until we get to the spring semester, but probably in mid-January we'll be doing things with different gates.
Yeah, we're planning to open up gate 1 for the spring semester. We are now in the process of procuring a portable guard booth that we can put in place there and working with IT to set up the same access control systems, but we still will be controlling and monitoring access. In addition, this past semester, gate 6 was opened just for the high school students to use, but going forward, we are going to be opening it as well for everybody to use. That's the pedestrian entrance at gate 6. So for spring semester, we'll have gate 1, gate 5, gate 6, gate 8, and gate 13. We're going to monitor gate 13 to see what traffic is like, and then determine a set schedule based on actual use and access of gate 13, similar to what we did in the fall.
And in terms of COVID protocols, we're just going to continue to monitor whatever directions we get from the CDC and the state.
Yeah, our plan is current to now. We have not received any guidelines from CUNY that they're making any changes. So our plan is still in effect and will be until we're advised of any changes or updates. Yes, and our plan complies with CDC and New York State. And
then to Hassan Kawi's question, the library was actually meeting just before this meeting. I actually had to jump off of that meeting. And we're going to try to do what we can to create safe and accessible spaces in the library. I think one of the things that I need to talk to my team about is as we get into January, particularly if we have slightly lower use of certain classroom spaces, are there things that we can do to use those classroom spaces that may not be used as spaces where students can go and study and do collaborative work safely, so that we can take some of the pressure off the library as well? Because obviously, the library exists there, but there are certain times where the library is just inundated with people, some who want to linger and study, some who just simply want to get materials out of the library, and some who need to meet with the librarian or a consultant to help them with a project. And if we can move students around the campus so they have multiple places to meet and do their study, we might reduce some of the pressures on the library.
I've actually been thinking about that, and I have some ideas, but I haven't had an opportunity to discuss it with my team yet. So I'd like to do that before we actually announce it, but I think we do have options.
Excellent. I suggested a tent or a yurt over the soccer field in winter, but I was laughed out of the Zoom room by the rest of my colleagues on the leadership team. And perhaps rightly so. Perhaps rightly so. It might be a little too cold in winter. And Peter, do you recall when summer registration begins?
No, I don't have that date, actually. Yes, I don't have that date, but we'll announce that anyway.
I'm going to assume sometime in March or April, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then will there be an appointment system for students who want to use the Apex facilities when not approved to be on campus? And I'm not sure about that one because if the student isn't approved to be on campus, they can't access Apex. So you first have to be, you have to be cleared to get on campus, and then you can use Apex. There's no way to get you directly into Apex.
That is correct.
Yeah, and CUNY's requirement is that students must be vaccinated to come on campus or have an approved exception or exemption.
And then Catherine Cassidy says something, and less a question. And Catherine, I really appreciate it because yes, there are students who haven't been on campus. And we may have some first year students who have driven by the campus and wistfully looked at the fence and said, I wish I could be there, who will likely be here in January. And so, yeah, that might be an opportunity for us to ramp up some of our communication in the week to 10 days before the semester starts, to give them cues and signposts of where things are at and how to navigate the campus. And while I like the idea of people on campus to help them, at the same time, we have to be mindful of not creating unintended bottlenecks around people and discouraging unsafe gathering. And so let me think about that one. In principle, I like the idea. It's the execution that I've got to wrap my head around. Let's see.
You know, that reminds me of some of the questions I've been receiving this week also from students who, although they're Lehman students and have been for some of them 2 years, don't have an ID. So I plan on sending out a memo in early January that outlines all the procedures and things you'll need to do in order to access campus, so that those students who haven't been on campus will have the opportunity to do that beforehand. And that should be coming out very soon after the beginning of the new year.
Thank you. And then Desiree, your question and comment about technological issues with our students. I mean, this is one of our legislative asks. We've been briefed multiple times by Ron Bergman and his colleagues in IT. They've literally given out thousands of devices, Chromebooks, laptops, MiFis to students. It is quite honestly a structural problem in the Bronx. Legislators at all levels are aware of it, and yet it doesn't really fall in any one legislative bucket. And so it is one of those seemingly intractable things that needs, a number of people to just kind of get together and sort this out. I think we have an opportunity with the federal funding the way it is in the Bronx, and boy, this would be a huge thing, not just for higher education, but K through 12, medicine, even commerce in the Bronx, to be able to solve the problem of dedicated and stable Wi-Fi access that's affordable. And then obviously our students have a varying need for technology. Our IT unit is committed to continuing to work with those students who need it. Those students who can now come to campus will have access to our resources on campus, and so that's helpful. But we will continue to chase that as aggressively as we can. In terms of options given to students who receive early alerts to withdraw before December 13th due to multiple absences, I'm not sure there really are any options left. Are there, Peter, at that point?
No, there are not such options, but depending on what the issue is, they can actually engage with their department chair, the faculty and the department chair, and we'll handle those on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. And then the question is, will campus be open to other CUNY students or only Lehman ones? And the short answer is, in athletic events and cultural events, we do have other campus students here. I mean, we do have visitors as well. Do we want to encourage a mass of students from other campuses coming to our campus and clogging spaces that we want to separate for our students? Not really, right? And it's not because I don't want to be a good neighbor to other campuses. It's that I really feel I really feel like it's important to prioritize the experience and the opportunities for our students first, so that we can do it. We can welcome them and they can feel welcome and safe on campus. Let's see, can students who have submitted their vaccination status access the campus any day of the week? I think as we move into the spring semester, yes, right. We've strongly discouraged that this semester. You know, the message has been come on campus, get what you need done, get off campus. But as we come back in the spring, you know, the intention from the central office is to use the spring semester as a 70% trial run of us being quote unquote back to normal, whatever normal means on each of our campuses.
I'm going to add to that, President Delgado, that if you want to use the Apex, yes, you can come on campus on a day that you're not in classes. Or if you need to pick up something at the bookstore, if you've scheduled to visit, yes, you can come on campus to do that. Yes.
Yep.
There is availability.
And Hassan, I feel your pain about the online service to get your ID not accepting it. When I first got here, I took pictures of myself up against walls at home, in the hallway here, in the office, and I never took the picture the right way. And I actually had to physically after hours go down and have somebody help me with it. So hopefully we can sort out your problems with your ID. And as VP Rotolo said, I think that's one of the things we need to communicate to students who haven't been to campus, don't have a physical ID. So Mark, the PAC already has programming going on, and people from outside have come for events. Yep. I don't recall what the what the average audience has been, but I know that a couple of
it varies. Yeah, the audience has varied. It's been from a full house to not so full house. It depends on the particular event. But yes, they have been open and running programming.
And folks, much like the rest of the city, when they go into the theater, they just need to show proof of full vaccination as they come onto campus. Oh, it's an interesting question. Will alumni be allowed on campus to attain alumni membership IDs?
I believe alumni do have IDs, and you may have to just schedule through the alumni office for that initial ability to get on campus in order to, obtain the ID. I believe, and please don't quote me on this, but I believe you have to pay for your membership in order to get the ID, and it must be current.
Tricia, if you go to public safety, there are directions there, the public safety page, there are directions there on how to get your ID. And then I can't remember the name of the physical location, Rene, where the...
Tricia, if you email me, Rene, Rene.Rotolo, ROTOLO at lehman.cuny.edu, I will send the link to you. I've been doing that to students that have been emailing me.
And then in terms of getting a physical ID, Rene?
Once you upload the photo and get a digital ID, you then send an email to public.safety@lehman.cuny.edu, letting them know you want a physical ID. They will print it for you and place it at gate 5 for you to pick it up.
Wonderful. Thank you. We have no open questions. Oh, Robert, there you go. Oh, will alumni also be able to access library, Apex, and et cetera as part of their paid and alumni membership?
I still believe they have to pay for membership to Apex. I don't think their card gives them that access.
But whatever services that they used to really use based on their membership as alumni, then suddenly they will still be able to access those services.
So long as they've documented that they are fully vaccinated to be able to come onto campus.
Correct.
Okay. Nestor, that's an interesting question. This culture of customer service support for our students, I hope we're doing the best that we can. I always know in terms of customer support, we can do better. It's interesting. The chancellor actually mentioned this. Oh, I'm going to say 2 months ago at a cabinet meeting, and indicated that he had an issue an interest across our system to ramp up training around customer service in key, I believe the phrase he used, in key student serving areas. I won't elaborate what those are because I don't think he sort of elaborated. I can imagine of maybe what he was thinking about. So it wouldn't surprise me as we sort of get back to normal operations that we are either individually encouraged to take on this task, or we see an initiative driven out of the central office that impacts each of our campuses. Do we need to have the physical COVID-19 vaccination card, or is a picture on our phone enough?
It needs to be uploaded to CUNY first if you're a faculty, staff, or a student. And then it will be linked to your ID card so that you don't even need to show it when you come to campus. But if you're not associated with Lehman, you need to show the physical card, not a picture on your phone, for access to the Performing Arts Center for a show or any other performing or cultural space on campus.
And then Teresa Lundy, will adjunct faculty be able to access the campus Proctor exams? I think the answer is yes. At present, you would either have loaded a vaccination documentation, or you would have the appropriate documentation of a recent negative COVID test. Correct, Rene?
Which is taken, right. And the testing must be done at a CUNY testing site. So you have to be signed into the Cleared For to schedule an appointment to be tested, and then Cleared For automatically uploads it to the CUNY hub, which then links it with your ID card for access.
Okay. And Rene, is there another cafeteria on campus other than what's in the music building?
Not at present. As the population increases, we've had discussions with the vendor providing the grab and go service in music to also locate in Carmen Hall. And we have some other possible options we're looking at. We're hoping to get the farmer's fridge back and place that in a number of locations. That was actually a really good quality product in the vending machines. And we're also talking to our vendor that does vending for some other food vending options besides just the snacks.
Okay, and I don't remember, I think it was cut off, but does Excelsior link directly to CUNY ID? I don't think so, does it?
I don't think so.
No, it's not.
It doesn't. No, actually, it's the Cleared For, and anything that's uploaded in CUNY first links directly to our.
Rene, you want to touch on parking?
Well, I sent out parking memo for faculty and staff on December 1st. And as of December 5th, campus activity site for parking is open for everyone to secure their parking pass. Our current guidelines for parking expire on, on December 31st. So from January 2nd on, you will need to have a validated parking pass for access to parking. We're charging parking on a half-year basis because it's only for a half year. The memo about student parking should be coming out shortly.
Oh, question about random COVID testing, and yes, I mean, even those of us who've been vaccinated will be periodically selected. We'll win the lottery and get selected for the random test, and we are expected to complete the random test.
Yeah, you have a 7-day window in order to get tested, and you must be tested at a CUNY testing site. It doesn't necessarily have to be Lehman, but it has to be a CUNY testing site.
And then you get the advance notification so that you have enough time to do so.
You know, the last two meetings we finished at 4:37. There's a lot more questions this time. Rene, do we still have the testing site on campus?
Yes, it's in the Science Hall parking lot, accessible via Gate 6. We're using the vehicular gate entry for access to the testing site. It's actually in a trailer in the parking lot.
I'm just waiting here for a second to see if we have any additional questions. Right now, there are no open questions. Any plans, question from Mr. Montilla, any plans regarding professional development and meaningful opportunities for staff who have earned PhD degrees? Nestor, that's both a big and a potentially loaded question. The most honest answer I can give you at this point is I don't know. I would need to really think through and understand what are opportunities for staff. And in terms of professional development for our employees, sadly, a lot of professional opportunities really switched. There was a spasm of them going online, and some people did those really, really well, delivered those services really well. Some of us participated in professional development opportunities online. Some of us signed up for professional opportunities online, and it was sometimes a grim ride. There's nothing like an 8-hour seminar of talking heads on Zoom in the name of professional development. But as things open up both here and elsewhere, certainly there will be professional development opportunities. We'll always encourage people to take advantage of professional development opportunities.
And Mr. President, I do want to underscore that in the strategic plan, goal number 3 talks about faculty and staff success. And so your point is right on point in terms of opportunities. We just have to work on identifying what those are for both faculty and staff and continue to engage in those.
And Dean, there will be more gates open. We will not open all the gates in spring. It would be a controlled nightmare. And frankly, we are understaffed in public safety, and candidly, and it's my observation, if Rene disagrees with me and she's close to the ground, that's fine. I have this impression that they're just being run ragged right now.
No, you are right. You are 100% right.
Hassan asked a question about construction next to gate 8 in front of speech and theater. I'm not aware of construction there. Is it a staging site?
No, what we did is part of the circle roadway was replaced and all the walkways were replaced. That should be completed by the end of this month. So
Okay.
that was all part and parcel with the rehab of the plaza in front of the music building, adding the ramp and the new stairs, the rehab of the plaza in the back of the music building between music and speech and theater. And in fact, it was the upgrade of our fuel oil tanks that precipitated or necessitated all of these updates, because they are actually located in an oil tank room that's below that rear plaza. So we managed to stick into that, replacing all the walkways and the roadway and getting all nice things done.
And so will the nursing construction be done near gate 1?
For spring, no. It's 2023 is the expected opening for nursing. We are coming out of the ground as we're speaking. So if you're in Carmen Hall and you happen to jump into one of the classrooms facing it, take a look down, because you'll find what I saw as one of the most interesting methods for actually shoring a site. And I'm sure it's very heavily used in Manhattan, but we don't see it here. But there were these huge structural steel tubes that are actually holding back the earth, allowing them to begin to erect the sub-basement walls and put the base slab down. It's really interesting. If you get a chance, take a look.
Cool. And then Teresa, your question about additional computers for testing, let me check with IT. I want to say yes, but on the other hand, addressing a previous question, I know IT is trying to do what they can to provision our students who are struggling with technology, and that may simultaneously inhibit our ability to provide more computers of the sort you described.
President Delgado, there is in a strategic planning budget, and Rene knows this, about 150K that we have allocated for staff and faculty computer consistent with our computer replacement cycle. So it's there that will have to be managed through VP Bergman's office.
Thank you, Peter. And there are no open questions. Well, we're at 4:57. We've got 3 minutes left in the session. If there are no additional questions, I just want to say, business school, if we are business majors, it's written as a question, Hassan, but the business school will be housing departments where those majors would be in. Likely accounting, finance, econ, management, marketing would tend to be the traditional academic departments in a business school. There could be other departments, but those tend to be the 5 fundamental ones. And hopefully we're ready to go in the new year with our planning for the business school. I will say the business school is also part of the conversation we're having with donors for naming opportunities, just to be candid. Okay, I want to thank everybody. At our peak here, I think we had a little bit more than 140 folks join us. You're all busy. It's the end of the term. Students are stressing about finals. Faculty are stressing about most everything else related to finals. And everybody is stressing about the work that's in front of us. And if you're like me, lamenting you didn't sit down that October afternoon and started doing the Christmas shopping. There's that as well. I want to thank everybody for their questions and for their participation. I really want to thank you all, whatever role you have at the university, at the college, and whatever role you play as a student, for your engagement, for staying with Lehman, for being the student that you are, and for the faculty and staff for doing all the heavy lifting you've done in this semester and frankly the 3 previous semesters. So I hope everybody can end the semester on a relatively happy, sane, not too high blood pressure note, and can enjoy the holidays as you need to, or at least enjoy the break as we look to a more hopeful 2022. And like the rest of you, I remember in 2019 and 2020 going, boy, if we could just get to the next academic year, I won't have to worry about COVID. And we will continue to sing that song. If we can just get to 22, 23, hopefully we don't have to worry about COVID. So we appreciate you all and hope you have a fine end of the semester and a good break at the end of the month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.